Good morning, everybody. Today, we stand in the sad and shocked situation due to the coronavirus. So, we can have a silent prayer for few seconds to commemorate the deceased patients, 2,40,000 in the world due to corona disease. Please take silence few minutes. We the people facing the corona tragedy, this situation compelled us to take such a class in front of the video camera for not to lose the classes to our students. Anyway, we are hoping that we shall overcome someday this coronavirus from the face of the world and stand together against this epidemic virus, and please obey the rules and directions and regulations of the government of India and government of Kerala, and please keep social distance and using masks and sanitize to avoid this threat. Now, I mainly intend this class to the MA second semester Islamic Study students and the BA second semester Islamic Study students can also avail this class. Our paper is Medieval India, especially the second part of Medieval India, the Mughal rule in India. Before that, most of the people or the students, they requested history is the most confused subject, and the period of the history, ancient, medieval and the modern, etc., all are confused. They to have only for the purpose of study to make some imaginary lining or the mark to make them easy to study. People are always complaining that history is a very boring subject and totally the events and the kings and the dates and etc. So it is very difficult to remember, so they must have some marks to identify the events. For that purpose, here I did something only for the purpose of the students' study convenience. The ancient Indian history, where it starts the ancient period, actually the prehistoric period, and the Indus civilization, and then comes the Aryans, then the Vedic period, then the later Vedic period, Jainism, Buddhism, Mauryas, Guptas, etc., etc. These period we are generally using for the period of the ancient India. The people of the history or the Islamic history, they can easily understand the division of this type will make something easy to understand their view or their understanding on history, where starts the ancient India and where start the medieval India, then where again start the medieval India part 1, part 2, then again comes where the stopping point or the starting point of the modern India and the post-modern India, etc. So only for the students' convenience of study, we are taking this type of method to simplify the students. Now, actually, the world history, even though it is not scientific for a division in history, history is a very wide and vast, like ocean. So there is the division in history is very unscientific, not true. Only for the purpose we can have an imaginary lining or marking from where the ancient starts. Now the world history about 30,000 BC up to the 476 AD. We can see this period is always called the ancient world history. Then what is the importance of the 476 AD? This the historians put as an identity for the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Then from 476 AD up to 1453, the period of medieval world. The importance of the 1453 is the Turks conquered Constantinople. This is created so many events in the world and dawned a new era in the world. So this is a very decisive point. So we can start a limit as for the starting point of the medieval India or the ending period of the medieval India 1453. From 1453 onward is the modern world. Likewise, when we turn to Indian history, then the ancient India up to the Guptas, then comes the medieval India, and before I go into the medieval India, at the same period in the world, history became in another way because a world religion, Islam. This religion took birth in Arabia. This is a world religion and it's a monotheistic religion. It is originated in the Semitic people of Arabia, and totally the principles and all ideas of this religion is a way of life. And this religion became full-fledged with the birth of Prophet Muhammad in 570 AD. He was born in Arabia in the Quraysh family at Mecca. Was a double orphan and as an ordinary boy, he got his prophethood in 610 AD at the age of 40. And this incident is called as revelation of Holy Quran. This is the holy book of the Islam. After which Prophet became problematic in his birthplace, and the people turned against Prophet Muhammad, and there was a struggle for existence. Due to these oppressions from his own people and the Meccans and other enemies, he had to go hijrah. The incident that is the Prophet and his companions migrated from Mecca to Medina. This incident is rightly known as hijrah. Then after which, to consolidate, to have an Islamic government, there was some things to be necessitated, that some wars became inevitable, that which we call the Islamic wars, and the participation of the Prophet and the principles of the Islamic principles of the wars, etc. Then became the Islamic Republic at Medina. Then there an Islamic rule, and Prophet became the administrator and head of the state. After this period, Prophet demised or in 630 632 AD. With the death of Prophet Muhammad, then the another chapter opened the history of the world in general and Muslims or Islamic people in particular. That after the demise of Holy Prophet, 4 rightly guided caliphs came to the administration. First of all, Hazrat Abu Bakr, 632, and then comes the Hazrat Umar the Great, 634. Then the third Caliph, Hazrat Uthman, 644. Then the fourth and the last this line, Hazrat Ali bin Abi Talib, 656 AD. All these rulers became known as the Khalifa. The meaning of Khalifa is the representative of Prophet of God on earth, and they were the religious and civil and military leaders. They were actually the rulers of that country. Then after this, then another historical event occurred, which we call the Umayyad dynasty. Umayyad dynasty, a relative of Prophet Muhammad, and the founder of this dynasty, Muawiyah. And so many rulers came in this dynasty, and they made so many reforms, and they brought many changes and administrative reforms, and the concept of the Khilafat and the Islamic norms and principles totally changed due to the arrival of this new dynasty. This dynasty really inaugurated the kingship or the mulukiyat in Islamic world. Now, our focusing point is here. Now we are entering to the medieval India. This is the core of our topic or the subject of the paper. Then during the period of the Umayyads, they ruled in Syria as their capital Damascus, and the most important, one of the most important rulers of the Umayyad dynasty, Walid I. Walid I wanted to have an expanded empire under his custody, and he decided to have conquer in the west as well as the east. Now we are taking the eastern side, from which the period of Islamic history or the Muslim role or Islamic role in Indian subcontinent. During the period of Walid I was faithful and trusted governor Hajjaj bin Yusuf, who was the governor of Iraq, under whose charge the eastern territories, and who sent an army under his own nephew or son-in-law to India, especially in Sindh. This was occurred in 712 AD. There was a severe battle between the Indian ruler Dahir, the Rajaput ruler, and the Arab leader Muhammad bin Qasim. This is the Arab invasion of Sindh. This is rightly known as in the history of India. This is the Arab invasion of India or Arab invasion of Sindh. That is in 712 AD. It is a very decisive event in the history of India. From that onwards, there existed some rulers came and they come and go. This continued for long centuries. This period collectively we call the Muslim rule in India. That is in medieval India, part first of medieval India. After the Arab leader Muhammad bin Qasim, and after some time, the another Muslim groups, actually they are not the Arabs, whom we call the Turks, they embraced the Islamic religion and they entered in Indian subcontinent, and their leader was Mahmud Ghazni. This family whom we called as the Ghaznavids. Mahmud Ghazni was the leader of this group, who landed in India 1000 AD, and after some wars, and he collected some wealth and other materials and went away to his native place, again came and went to his own place, and after which another group of Muslims, which we called Ghoris, their leader was Muhammad Ghori. 1191 AD, Muhammad Ghori landed in India and had to face with the Indian ruler, Rajput ruler Prithviraj Chauhan, and there was a battle took in between the Prithviraj Chauhan of Indian ruler and Muhammad Ghori of Ghoris in 1191. This battle is also known as the First Battle of Tharain. Very next year, again Muhammad Ghori took a battle with the Indian ruler in the 1192 AD. This is also known as the Second Battle of Tharain. With Muhammad of Ghor, the Muslim rule into some extent inaugurated in Indian subcontinent. Then after some time, there was another new dynasty came to in India, which we call the Slave dynasty. Slave dynasty, Khalj dynasty, and Tughlaq dynasty, etc. We can call collectively all these dynasties, 4 or 5 dynasties, the Sultans of Delhi or Delhi Sultanate. Qutbuddin Aibak was the first ruler in this dynasty, slave dynasty, who was also a slave. He performed very good administration in this land, and he was a very magnanimous ruler. He had very charitable mind and a good administrator and a scholar also. And he inaugurated the foundation of Qutub Minar in India. Even now we can have the Qutub Minar in our capital. This is the foundation stone laid by Qutbuddin Aibak. After Qutbuddin Aibak, the next ruler of this dynasty was Iltutmish, was the most important ruler in the slave dynasty, who consolidated the Muslim rule in the northern India at that period. The most important contribution of Iltutmish was the changes in the administration, who controlled the Mongols' attack and who founded some establishments for his own safety, who founded a group of 40 nobles, which we call Chahelgana, or the 40, the 40. Actually, who appointed the 40 for his personal bodyguards, but after which they became so powerful and they became the deciding factor that who would be the next ruler and would not be the next ruler in India. Then, in short, they became so powerful. And after this, he introduced so many reforms, some welfare reforms in India, and people loved him very much. Then he completed the construction of Qutub Minar, etc. After his period, his daughter Sultana Razia became the ruler for a short time. She is the first woman ruler in India. After Razia Sultana, Ghiyasuddin Balban became the next successor in medieval India or the Delhi Sultanate. Balban was known as the Red Iron Sultan. He was a great figure and he introduced so many drastic measures in India. And he was one of the members of the 40 even during the time of Iltutmish. And he very clearly known the powerness of the 40 group or the nobility during that period. After being the Sultan of India, who firstly decided to suppress the group of the 40 and he dismembered the 40 and suppressed the 40. Then he introduced so many other reforms in India, revenue and military reforms, and he checked very amply control the Mongols. Mongols, they were the permanent threat to the Indian people. They tried many occasions to attack India, and Ghiyasuddin Balban very strongly controlled the Mongolian people not to enter in his boundary. He was a very strong man who believed that the divine power theory, divine right theory of the kingship, who introduced so many domestic reforms in his own diocese and the country also. Ghiyasuddin Balban introduced a strong market reforms even before Sultan Alauddin Khilji, and he observed the people regularly from doing the immoral activities or outlaw the crossing the laws of the land, etc. So the people very fear with Balban. After Ghiyasuddin Balban, there was another dynasty originated which we call the Khilji dynasty. This very important dynasty in medieval India. Jalaluddin Khilji was the founder of this dynasty. The most important ruler of this dynasty was Sultan Alauddin Khilji. Was a very great ruler in medieval India. Sultan Alauddin Khilji also believed in the theory of kingship. According to the theory of kingship is the divine position. They came from this power, came from directly from God, and to a certain extent they believed that they are representative of God on earth. That is the meaning that nobody can question the king. They were the despotic and the autocrat and the tyranny or the tyrant. The Sultan Alauddin Khilji wanted to expand his territories, and he conducted a North Indian expedition, and he conquered so many states or provinces in the northern territories of India. And while he attacked in Gujarat, his commander-in-chief had to meet an Hindu eunuch whose name was, who later embraced Islam, Malik Kafur from the Gujarat. Then the Malik Kafur became the faithful and right-hand man of Sultan Alauddin Khilji later. After this, Sultan Alauddin Khilji made a very scientific revenue policy, great financial policy, and market regulations, etc. He is very known for his very famous for market regulation. Market is regulated by certain norms and rules of the government. He strictly surveilled the weighing and measuring the goods and articles, and he controlled the corruption and the underweighing of the goods and articles in the market. He declared strong, drastic measures or the punishment methods to the culprits, and the people, they feared the coming of the Sultan, and even they totally feared about the presence of the Sultan or hearing the sound of Sultan. Sultan Alauddin Khilji formed a great permanent standing army in India, and he reformed military scenes. He introduced the sealing of the horses, and he paid well remuneration to his officers, especially the military, and short people there not dared to have corruption in totally. After Sultan Alauddin Khilji, there is another dynasty which we call the Tughlaq dynasty. There are some rulers in this line, but the most important ruler in this dynasty is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. It's a very controversial king in medieval India. He came to power in 1325 AD up to 1351. He was a scholar. Muhammad bin Tughlaq started some reforms in his territories. First of all, who decided to transfer his capital from Delhi to Devagiri. Devagiri was in South India, Deccan, which he renamed as the Daulatabad. He had his own reasons for this transfer of capital. He wanted to have a somewhat the middle position, the capital would be in the middle position of the land that will be useful for the concentration to all the parts of the country under the Sultan. And in addition to, he wanted to have a synthesis of the north-south culture. And he ordered to transfer all the men and all their animals and even the utensils also, the people, they en masse transferred to Delhi, to Devagiri, South India. But this became a total failure, and people suffered a lot, and many people they died during this incident, and many of them wounded, and many of them very troubled. So the historians criticized him as the was not good ruler, etc. Anyway, this transfer of capital system is failed. Then next his reform is taxation in the Doab area. Doab was a very fertile area. He wanted to have a special tax on Doab area, but the people not cooperated with his policy, and this policy also failed. Then his next policy was the introduction of token currency, and his contemporary rulers of the Persia and China, the rulers of that countries, they introduced coinage or currency system in their countries respectively, and this attracted Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq decided to have reforms in currency system, which we call the token currency. But this system also failed due to so many demerits in this system, and he wanted to have copper and brass as the coins. He started mint the token currency as the copper and brass, but the minting of the money not came the country's control and the government's control. So this system totally failed. People of the land en masse, they started to mint currency. So the result is the total failure of the system. Then next, the Mongolian invasion and some other reforms also. Anyway, all his reforms became totally failure. That is the reason why the historians called him as the mixture of opposites and the wisest fool. Anyway, he is the most controversial ruler in the medieval India.